Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our scientific passions and fantastical fantasies, a place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. On today's podcast, not even death will save you from taxes. So we are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction, and without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves. All right, we're going to start at the top with you, Mr. Jesse James Fain.
Hey, everybody. I am Jesse James Fain. Some people would know me as the Outlaw Author if you peruse Reddit's writing prompts. I'm a science fiction and fantasy author specializing in revenge tales and what I would call martial tales, showing you a little bit of real-life combat in a fictional setting. And that's me.
All right, and next we have Mr. Declan Finn, returning guest, fan of the show.
Declan Finn. I'm closing in on 40 novels. So far, I write anything that's not nailed down. Urban fantasy, vampire romance, if you don't mind all the explosions. Thrillers, murder mysteries. I haven't written comic books yet, but give me time. I've got at least one dystopia in the collection, as well as some satire, but that might be a little out of date right now. Also, I kind of run a review site called Upstream Reviews. I basically tell people schedule it for a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, and then stay out of everyone's way. I think that's all. I think I've covered everything.
All right, so I do have an important question. We have already interviewed you on this show about St. Tommy, a New York City detective who hunts vampires and stuff. Are you going to have him move to Texas now that you have?
I have characters moving to Texas, yes. Not Tommy. When the entire series is called St. Tommy NYPD, moving him to Texas would make it awkward.
I mean, a lot of people left New York and moved elsewhere, especially New York City cops. So, I mean, it could work.
Read book 12. Real talk.
All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Mr. James J.E. Pittman.
Hey guys, J.E. Pittman here. You can call me James. J.E. is just for Google optimization. I write science fiction, fantasy, all kinds of weird stuff. Everything has a supernatural bent to it, whether it is hard science fiction or straight up fantasy. So, glad to be here.
Absolutely. We're glad you're here as well. And just for the record, since you are our resident connoisseur of fine liquors and liqueurs, what's in the cup today?
Today I picked Green Spot Irish.
Okay. Have you tried that one, Nick? Are you taking notes?
I'm always taking notes when it comes to Pittman.
I was sipping on some Glenfiddich earlier.
Attaboy.
Man of sophistication and style. All right.
The next birthday, I got to introduce her to new good stuff.
Absolutely essential. Introduce your dogs, pets, cats. I don't care. They all need to know. Wait, that's probably illegal. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Anyway, the next part of the introduction, dear listeners, how we first found them. So we're actually all part of the same demon hunting group, but then the IRS wanted us to pay taxes, and we were like, no. So we had to go into hiding, and now we're talking to you from Woodsack. True story.
Yeah, but we got the lawyer involved as us being a religious nonprofit. So
it's true.
Doesn't work if you tell them about it.
Well, crap. Now that you tell me, like, where were you 10 minutes ago?
Right here.
All right. And next, we're going to do the religion questions. Are you ready for this, Jesse?
I hope so.
All right. So the crying shame of adulthood is people stop asking you this question. So by popular demand, we are bringing it back. What is your favorite dinosaur, sir?
So I'm very blessed that my son is absolutely ragingly into dinosaurs. So I still get to exercise my my own dinosaur love. But I'm going to go with Utah Raptor. I love the idea of having something that's not quite T-Rex size, but still the size of a horse and is an absolute murder machine.
Murder Machine would be a good name for a book, Declan. Write that down.
Murder Machine.
All right, Declan, next question is for you. Favorite dinosaur?
And turn off the music or turn it down.
Yeah, I'll be boring. Let's just go for Velociraptor.
It's not boring. All right, James.
I'm gonna have to either go with Stegosaurus or Ankylosaurus.
Excellent choices.
Anything that has a club or spikes on its tail and just lashes anything that gets in its way, I'm down for that.
So a man of simple taste. I like it.
Blunt instrument.
Yeah, blunt instrument of fiction. I get it. Have you always liked that, or is that a recent development for your taste?
I've always enjoyed the Stegosaurus. The Ankylosaurus was a later on one when I learned more about it.
Okay. All right, Jesse. Favorite zoo animal?
Ooh. Not to make this a long answer, but I ended up going to the zoo one time and getting to observe 2 female tigers get into a clash. And it was like being next to an industrial breaker when it goes off. The electricity in the air was insane. So I got to go with the tiger.
Okay.
Good
All right.
call.
What about you, Declan?
Repeat the question, please.
What favorite zoo animal? You're in Texas, so I'm going to guess it's like a horse or something weird.
I'm trying to remember the last zoo animal I came across.
So many jokes in my head right now.
Okay. James.
No, I am not even going to talk about my exes. So I don't think they count.
James.
Just because it's traumatized so many of my friends, we'll go with giraffe.
Why is giraffe traumatizing?
So the local zoo had a live stream of a pregnant giraffe cam, and then it gave birth, and they saw it give birth, and they were traumatized.
Oh, we need people of stronger constitution than that.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
Stabby.
when we have to air it live on air, that's different.
Fair, Stabby, what is your favorite zoo animal? I haven't asked you this one in a while. Is it the stuffed animal?
He's a lion.
All right.
Nick
and,
bought him for me. Isn't he so cute? He's from the San Diego Zoo.
outstanding. Nick, favorite?
Okay. I don't know. I got so many favorites. So
I'll go with
land-based. I like the lions, and then when we go to like the aquatic-based animals, I like the sperm whale. Some of those.
Would you see
Penguins.
those at the zoo, though?
Yeah,
Right.
we got one in San Diego.
Okay.
That's SeaWorld.
So partly because we have lions and tigers, I have to say it, but also because I just read a bear shifter book, which is kind of cool. Dude was kicking ass as Kodiak bear, so I'm here for it. So I'm gonna go with bear. It changes week to week. That's why we ask you the question again, Stabby. Next week it might be a penguin for you too. Although if the penguins are from Madagascar and Kowalski is there, they automatically go to the top of the line.
Damn it, Kowalski.
Kaboom.
Yep. All right.
Might be
so-
an orca.
Oh, yeah, orca. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, because we are affiliated with Coffee Brand Coffee, discount code Podcast Grunts, links in the comment below. Jesse, coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Coffee between the two, definitely with cream and sugar. I am honestly just a water guy. I don't normally use anything to wake up or anything like that, but between the two, definitely coffee.
Okay. And do you drink it cold in the summer or hot all year round?
Cold in summer for sure.
All right. Declan.
Tea.
Okay.
Iced.
And sweet or unsweet?
Oh, sweet. You have to do it yourself, though.
Excellent answer. All right. James.
I'm with Declan. Tea, sweet, sometimes shaken, but you have to sweeten it yourself. and I have to use no sugar sweeteners and no chemical sweeteners either.
So what does that leave?
Monk fruit.
Okay.
Mhm. It works.
It
Do you
does.
like the Yankee tea from Long Island? I've heard Long Island iced tea is pretty good.
Ah,
You know, I just drink them separate.
Oh, all right. So
I don't have to hide my whiskey and tea.
that's fair. When you grow up, you don't have to hide it anymore. Stabby, what are you drinking on the coffee or tea front?
Right now, well, in the coffee pot, there is Coffee Brand Coffee bourbon flavored coffee. And that's what's on the coffee front. I have sun tea currently outside on the patio because, as you can see, the sun is kind of still high in the sky for us. But in the cup right now is actually Pepsi Zero. I know, surprising. It's not a White Claw or anything. It's just
Pepsi
it's
Zero.
just soda.
I don't know. I on the Coke versus Pepsi divide, I'm Team Coke. I think Diet Coke tastes better. It's less sweet than Diet Pepsi, and regular Coke tastes better than Pepsi. I don't know. If a restaurant only has Pepsi, I'm getting water.
So here's the fun thing about that is I never got into the fights, but every hotel that I worked for in Las Vegas only served Coke products. So you drink that for enough years, you'll take anything other than Coke.
I don't know. I've been drinking Diet Coke as my preference since like high school, so many years ago. So what about you, Nick? Coffee or tea, and how do you take it in the summer?
Oh, in the summer, it's got to be tea.
Is it going to be your unsweetened sun tea?
Yeah. Well, I put a little lemon in it. Maybe some honey sometimes, but
Do you put actual lemon?
Mint.
You pour lemon concentrate? What do you lemonade? What are you pouring in there?
no, actual lemons. Like, I got a squeezer and everything.
Lemon with the green top, right?
No, that's at the bar. That's what people get when they want to drink their cocktails. But for tea, I'll put fresh lemon in there.
Nice.
Maybe some lime for a little razzle dazzle.
Well, you're living the high life over there, my guy.
Bruh. No cap.
But be sure
Oh,
to
and of
drink your
course, my favorite whiskey.
All right, now that we got that out of the way and we got all nerdy as we usually do. All right, so Stabby, you wanted us to talk about this today. So the episode, Supernatural, the Occult. So why? Well, first off, what is the Occult? Let's define that.
I got it. I got it right here, actually.
Uh-oh. The Grunt is reading. We're in trouble.
No. It's talk to text. All right, Stabby.
Oh man!
All right,
why do you guys make me read. Okay, occult is a noun. Supernatural, mythical. Nope, that says mystical.
want me to read
Magical
it, please,
beliefs,
Stabby?
practices, or phenomena. Yeah, go for it, because we all know I'm dyslexic. I don't know why you guys wanted me to read.
Supernatural, mystical, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomenon, a secret society to study alchemical and the occult, similar to supernatural, the paranormal, supernaturalism, magic, black magic, witchcraft, etc., etc., etc. And then a bunch of words basically are the same thing in different languages. So that is the occult. So basically, almost superstition instead of religion. Sounds like it.
It's kind of ancient religion. It's kind of, stuff that contemporary religions cast to the fringes. The root word of the occult is literally occluded, same root word, hidden knowledge. So, just kind of spooky stuff that may or may not be
like
real.
Ouija boards.
Hey, don't go messing with tarot and the Ouija boards.
Please
The
don't.
Ouija board is fake. It's always somebody
No.
else moving it.
Nope.
I think it's important to not even say that it's even ancient at times. We've got dudes like Aleister Crowley that make advancements and generate their own religion that wasn't historically that long ago. And there's a lot of ancient practice in that, but it's just really occult at this point could occupy anything that the modern most prevalent churches that the Abrahamic religions don't accept or don't work with anymore, or maybe even vilify or shun.
Okay. Declan, James, you got anything to add to that one as far as the definition of terms?
No, we're on the right track. It's definitely anything from esoteric ancient knowledge to, there were purportedly alchemists up to the 1970s who actually fully claimed to be alchemists, not just, historical figures. And then, if you believe some accounts, they are immortal and still walk among us. And I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that from my books.
But are they full metal alchemists?
Yeah, some are.
Okay. So with the terms defined, Stabby, what is it about them that speaks to you that made you want to do this episode? Why do you like the occult?
Honestly, we all know I'm the spooky one here, so let's not even go there. It just is. Madam Stabby stabbing that it just goes together.
She haunted her own house. Come on.
I did haunt my own house just to scare the neighborhood kids because it's so worth it. But what it really comes down to is I don't remember why I chose the occult as one of our things because we were in the middle of a discussion about something completely different. And I was like, oh, write that down. So here we go.
The occult chose you.
And now for something completely different.
All right. Jesse, what is it that you like about the occult? Because you jumped on the chance when we did the open call to be here. So what is it about the occult that speaks to you?
So I think the thing that really speaks to me about the occult is the idea of reaching beyond what we see and do every day. And the occult permeates everything. It permeates in how we talk, and people don't really pay attention to those things. Like, why do you knock on wood? Things like that. And that always floating in the background belief that there is something else out there beyond regular understanding. And beyond even science has always appealed to me.
Okay. Declan, you've pretty much made a career on all things mystical. So what is it that draws you to all of that?
Well, in part because there are so many. I cheat. I'm Catholic, so I have a whole bunch of rules written down about the occult, the supernatural, metaphysics. It's just, hi. You've got an RPG manual. You might as well use it. So that's how I go about it a lot. And my wife used to be a pagan. Even before I married her, she converted. And one of my favorite of her stories is she was reading a Aleister Crowley book, and She realized that there's a problem with this book because it tells you how to raise demons. It doesn't tell you how to put them back. It's kind of like that, the joke in Doctor Strange, the warnings come after the spells. And she went to, her guru on the subject. Do not ask me for the proper term. And, he basically looked around and went, okay. The secret to, putting down a demon, you call the Catholic priest and find an exorcist. And she's like, what? So, yeah, so that those sorts of details are fun. But no, and of course, as far as occultists go in fiction, you've got all sorts of options ranging from something Lovecraftian to some people in public office, but that's another conversation. If you have not read my St. Tommy books, I basically take, modern day stupidity. I take it so far that it's demonic, and usually within 3 to 5 years, some idiot is trying to make what I wrote a public platform. So it's one of those I really can't win.
Okay. James, what about you? What is it that speaks to you about the occult?
it's that hidden mystery. I like the kind of the depth to reality it kind of gets. I love playing with that everyday, unordinary type stuff. And if we're able to tap into it, even a little bit, I don't know. There's just a lot that speaks to me about it, just like at its core, and also kind of it's been around this long. It can't all be wrong, that kind of thing. So, real or not, it's still rich fodder for fiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you used?
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask James, have you used any of it in your fiction, or do you just like consuming it?
Oh no, Felix is entirely occult based. It's heavily influenced by tarot. It is because tarot is like one of the original storytelling archetypes. It covers everything. I actually do use it in a lot of the character defining and development process, and a lot of the story. And there's actually underpinnings in like the creation of the tarot in Felix later on in the series. And there's alchemists galore. Two of the main characters now are purportedly immortal alchemists. Crowley does show up in some form, as does a few other people of the Golden Dawn Society he was part of and broke away from. And yeah, there's a lot of occult and esoteric stuff in Felix, and also in Pandora Squad, and in the short stories I write. Like I said, everything I do kind of has a little touch of it, just because it. Yeah. There you go, Nick, representing. So
stickers on my
everything,
Stanley Cup as well that I take to work.
Awesome. Holding up well.
Yeah. And I put that thing through hell. So
Hey, so's the unit.
So I don't know. For me, when I think the occult, I mostly think about like people like Rasputin, Grigori, however you say his middle name that starts with a Y.
Yeah.
Rasputin and his link to the Russian Tsar, was the last Tsar.
Yeah.
Mostly because in history we learned about the time they tried to kill him, and like all the different ways they tried, and he still wouldn't die until basically they like chained him up, threw his body over the river, and just assumed he drowned.
Yeah.
Because like they shot him, they stabbed him, they poisoned him. He just wouldn't die. And I kind of got to respect that about him. He just refused to die.
You mean like Nick?
What's that?
That he wouldn't die just like Nick?
Pretty
not
much.
from a lack of trying. I just keep breathing. Like my introduction to the occult, other than being raised Catholic, which is a whole other thing, was comic books, Doctor Strange. So that was kind of like my introduction into that type of stuff. And then when I stopped being scared of like horror movies, I started getting more into that too. So yeah, it's always kind of fascinated me too. And it's a really good, like if you're stuck on a story of like how this is going to play out, throw in the occult, throw in some mysticism, throw in something supernatural, because you don't really have to explain it.
Nope.
So it's great for a MacGuffin, just throw it in there. But I like those types of characters. I like those types of stories where it's like, okay, well, we don't have a scientific way to beat this thing. How are we going to do it? Oh, there's a spell, or there's a magic rock, or something crazy.
Or when in doubt, fire.
In that same comic vein, Doctor Strange, you got Zatanna in DC, and one of my all-time favorite, like, unsung characters, Gone, the form of man, Rise the Demon, Etrigan.
Oh yeah, the Demon. I just like 2 years ago, I picked up his first appearance.
Nice.
I was super stoked, and it was like $75. It was really cheap. So.
I came across him on like Batman the Animated Series, and it's kind of like you're talking about. It's just like super rational, detective, Batman, everything, and then all of a sudden you have Jason Blood and demons and
Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa,
And
what is
Constantine.
this?
Yeah, John Constantine.
Yeah. I think that's a really cool thing about the occult too, is that it pushes the mind. Like Lovecraft captured that really well. That there were things out there that you could learn that would drive you insane or drive you to do things that didn't seem rational. And you can pair those up in lots of really cool stories where that detective type character or just someone who's more based in our everyday reality runs into something like that, and it creates interesting conflict.
Do you think the occult only works as a bad guy, the antagonist, or can the occult be used in a way where it's the good guy?
Absolutely
Well,
not. I mean,
no.
John Constantine,
John
Dr.
Constantine,
Fate, Dr. Strange.
Mhm.
These are all occult heroes, that use mysticism, magic arts, whatever, to combat evil.
See, I always
Yeah,
think
they-
occult and
there's both
evil are
ways.
synonymous.
The classic bad guys, the necromancer. I have 2 hero necromancers. So it's definitely in my belief, it's no different than pulling out a pistol in a way. The man behind the gun always makes way more difference than anything else.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know. For me, I always just associate the occult with evil, and I don't know why that is in my head. So interesting.
Well, it depends on exactly how you want to say Doctor Strange works. They try to explain it in the movies as, well, it's extra dimensional energy that we're pulling out of our ass and turning into, magic here, where it's like, okay, the whole magic is just, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, only goes up to a point. It's like, well, if you put on this magic ring and go on like this, and you'll open a portal to somewhere else, it's like, I don't think that's covered under, the Arthur C. Clarke rule. But again, it depends on how you want to look at it. And, with Constantine, he uses everything like it's a weapon, and I don't even want to go into the labyrinthine network of deals he has made with various and sundry things. There are days I have problems looking at Constantine and anything other than a pain in the ass, because good God, there are times he's unreadable. But but it depends on exactly what you think Dr. Fate is, not what powers Constantine is working with, same with Doctor Strange, etc. So that's a whole bunch of depends.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I just always associate it with evil. But what about you, dear listener? Do you have thoughts on this one? And if so, weigh in the comments below. Tell us if we're right, we're wrong. We don't care. Just join the conversation.
Yeah. Now, I will admit that for my own fiction, I will usually use the occult as villains. As in my wayward youth, I took some philosophy classes, and one of the most entertaining things was that once you get past the 1700s, it's like, yeah, the amount of people who go into the occult are ridiculous, up to and including, the one story of the guy who bought a chest full of Isaac Newton's writings, in his own hand, notebooks, but it was a chest filled with horoscopes.
Yeah.
So
Isaac Newton was an alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point about the 1700s, think to the witch trials. They were just typically wise women and people or women who the church couldn't control. So they were cast as the villains and burned at the stake because, they were not falling in line. They were, doing their hedge remedies, aka willow bark aspirin, or other, knowledge that was just passed down that some people just didn't understand, and they decided to use that as a sticking point for casting them as evil, evil, burn the witch, burn the witch. So, you know, it was just a fear-mongering method of control.
Okay. So when I was in school many years ago, we were taught the running theory they had at the time was the Salem witch trials was ergot poisoning, which caused mass hysteria.
Nope.
Because ergot poisoning basically they're high on LSD.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
witch trials weren't the start of it. There were witch trials in Europe starting with the release. There was some religious text, like it was like the Hammer of Witches or something like that, that just kind of set the precedent for all kind of witch trials in Europe.
Actually, it's kind of amusing with the Hammer of Witches because it was created by, the Dominicans, the Order of Preachers, Catholic Order, but it was used primarily by Protestants in Northern Europe. And I keep going, wait, what? Why? It's like the Catholic Church didn't even care. It's like,
fun fact.
What? Why?
You know what the Hammer of Witches was printed on? Gutenberg's press when the church seized it.
Interesting. So, I don't know. I imagine at some point, some of the people that were tried for witches really were practicing outside the bounds of what predominant religions allowed. So they were probably guilty of the crime. Whether they should be killed is not a separate story.
First of all, last time I checked, they didn't have a lot of records. To the best of my knowledge, it's like, oh yeah, sure, Europe heard about a few 100,000 people. But did they write anything down? Not to my knowledge. I know more about. We won't go into that. But I don't know of anybody who has actually just taken down trial transcripts, assuming there even were any.
And whether those trials counted as fair and impartial, or it's the old hanging judge, you're going to get a fair trial after which we'll promptly hang you, kind of thing. So harkening back to what you said, Declan, about where they tried to take Doctor Strange and turn his occult type powers and try to science them up. So do you guys, generally speaking, like it when they try to go all sciencey on the occult, or is that akin to midichlorians for everybody?
I like it when they try and fail.
Yes.
Depends on the context.
Oh, yeah. Hell,
I like Clark's Third a lot. I use it in a lot of my sci-fi. But when you take like Doctor Strange and you just go from the magic works because it's magic to we're gonna channel esoteric and go the Thor route. All of his stuff is space magic. He's a space wizard, but it's science. You wouldn't understand our advanced science. It just works. There's a spirit in the hammer.
Offense. You're very earthly, and we're talking about space magic.
Exactly.
I thought space magic was the sparkle jazz fingers of the speculative fiction world.
Oh, what do you got there? Was that Sparkles? Was that Sparkles? Lord of Thunder?
Sparkles, like the vampires, right?
So what about you?
I got a banner for that.
Okay. Anyway, no, I'm actually no comment. But no, hell, I've actually used in book, book 4 of St. Tommy, where, we had a bunch of antagonists who decided, oh yes, this magical thing that will destroy entire cities. Oh, it must be an alien device, because that's the only reason it makes sense. We're good atheists. We don't believe in the supernatural. It's like, so the part when it sucks your soul in and, leaves you a lifeless husk, that's just alien technology. Sure. Whatever.
I'm doing Pandora. I developed all kinds of quantum metaphysics.
Did you guys just put quantum in front of everything to make it sound cooler?
Pretty much.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I've used metaphysical viruses to explain vampires. It's like, well, viruses are technically not even alive, so, and technically they're vampires.
Logic, it's perfectly fine.
Bingo.
I love to hand wave him.
So they actually did one of it was Brad Thor. I'm pretty sure it was him that wrote it. Had this scene where you don't like him?
No comment. Keep going.
Okay. I enjoy his books. I haven't read them in a while because I've moved on. But he had one where where Hannibal went through the Alps, and of course they found
Rabies.
The rabies in a vaccine. What was it? Rabies and some sort of spider venom combined, because they were using germ warfare back then. They were actually finding different things to poison their enemies, which would create the symptoms of vampires, make them want to avoid the water, make them react to the sunlight. And he used that to explain vampires, the myth. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was kind of cool, like using actual known things.
Or like silver allergies. I can't remember who used that, but it was kind of a genetic anomaly or something.
Yeah. I don't even think the rabies thing started with Brad Thor. I think he stole it from somebody else.
So my favorite, though, was when we were talking vampires, because we've done that on the show already. The first time we did it, Declan was on that panel, and he pointed out that the myth about vampires not seeing the reflection, it was because mirrors used to have silver on the back. Yep. So why that works now, he never understood. So modern mirrors should let vampires be seen. I don't know. I don't. We're supposed to be talking about the occult. Damn it, Declan! It's your fault.
It's a tangent.
So are there any the occult could be a lot of things. Is there any favorite angle you guys have that you like to either see or write?
I like to keep changing it up, really. Hell, I've actually tried to use witches about 3 times in novels, and it's like, nope, this is a short story. Nope, this is a short story. I finally put together a private military contractor staff with witches, and it finally worked. But, I keep trying to change things up over and over again, mainly because there are only so many ways to end the world before I get bored.
I find it fun in stories to answer what I would say are the questions you could only ask God. So how do angels and demons talk to each other? What is the price of magic? What do you have to do to obtain this power? Like I said, I like writing necromancers of a kind of Lovecraftian line, that there's some kind of bond between life and death, and they somehow can play with those strings. And so I think that's probably the most fun of the occult, if we're talking about a writer or someone who absorbs a lot of fiction. Is there's so many different ways to answer those questions.
Okay.
Jesse, you're going deep there. Questions you can only ask God. I like that. For me, I just kind of like messing around with it, and like literally every chapter of Felix is probably something new that I just feel like playing with, or I feel like twisting on its head, or I just have fun with it. I won't say I use it as hand wavium, but I use it as the basis. I kind of go for that. If it fits my internal logic and it seems remotely plausible, I'm all for it. Let's play with it.
Okay.
That's what she said.
We're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the woman this time, and then we'll be back.
What is taking the night? There's the lady lead, who comes from a secret island to live in the big city as the daughter of a mafia underboss. Add a vigilante who goes after the more unsavory bits of family business. He helps her out of a spot of trouble. From there, the stakes and the body count only go up. Taking the Night by J.F. Posthumous. Narrated by Terry K. Job. Available on Amazon.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. Now we're back, and we're going to go back to talking about the occult. Stabby, are you going to survive?
Okay. Well, first of all, we know I love Posthumous. And we also know that I love Terry K. to death. And that was my first time hearing that one. So it just gave me the tingles.
Oh. So frequent guest of the show, Terry K. Job, is also an audiobook narrator, and that was her commercial. So back to the occult.
I'm summoning spirits over here.
So do you?
I'm not an alcoholic. I'm spiritual.
Are there any one specific angle of the occult that you like the most? Is it like the witches? Is it The alchemy angle where they're trying to cause matter to transmute, like, I don't know, straw into gold is the classic. Ouija boards. I mean, is there any aspect of it that you like the most?
That's like
I
playing
like the
Fain for children. No.
We all do it. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't have kids, but I don't play favorites with my whiskey. So, yeah, no, there's not one that I like more than the other. I like whatever suits the situation and the story I'm writing as I'm writing it.
I love all you bastards.
Ah, yeah, no, it whatever works with the plot. I mean, hell, I've had possessed serial killers, one death cult, one warlock running the cult. The atheists who are going after this obviously alien device, blah blah blah. One succubus running a, sex trafficking ring. I'm good for anything.
I like the idea that there's a dude walking out there or a lady walking out there who's basically a magical WMD. That there's somebody out there that has this wild power that could alter the universe or does alter the universe, but nobody knows. And it's just kind of this thing that is, the masquerade is there. What makes me a Harry Dresden fan. Is Harry is slowly becoming this thing that everyone fears. And a lot of the fandom, if you're online or anything like that, they're arguing about his morality choices. And I'm just rooting for him to become the monster at this point, because everybody that he becomes the monster to has earned it.
Yes, but with Harry Dresden, he keeps getting more and more powerful, and yet he's always got the crap kicked out of him by the end of the book.
He's
So
Spider-Man,
basically,
it happens.
He is the cult version of the Klingon, supposed to be a badass and keeps getting his ass kicked.
No, he's more like Bruce Willis at the end of a Die Hard movie. It's like, can I go in the ambulance now? Yes, I've killed everybody. I need to sleep for a week.
Nope.
So I think for me, when it comes to like the occult and the things that I like when it comes to it, it really is kind of dependent on who's telling the story. So one of my favorite, and it's funny because we all know I'm a sucker for a good slasher, but one of my favorite movies, it's not even a trilogy, it's a world at this point, is the Conjuring universe. And I love the way that they go about that. Each time they tell one, there is some sort of conduit there, but it's all interconnected somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, Annabelle, there is a demon behind Annabelle. And then you get even further behind that when you see Annabelle's creation and you realize that it was not the girl that you thought it was in the first Annabelle, but it was somebody prior to that initially brought that demon into the world. But that demon leads you to Valak. Valak leads you to the nun, and it just continues, and it's just too much fun. That whole entire universe is just too much fun. There's just so much going on that you could pick at it and be like, oh, so it wasn't just the doll, it wasn't just the girl, it was the demon behind all of it. And you get to see him in all the different aspects. It's kind of like the Insidious universe. When you actually see the demon, moving the hands around of the little boy. There's just so much fun in the occult world that it doesn't have to be one specific thing.
Maybe we'll do The Conjuring as one of our October reviews.
Oh my God, you're going to have to watch so many movies.
Just the one. We'll do the first one.
You're going to have to start now.
I only watch horror for you. We'll just do the first one.
You have to start now because there's a whole universe. You can't just watch the first one. You have to watch the second one, and then you have to watch Annabelle creation, and then Annabelle comes home, and then there's the Nun 2, and then there's The Devil Made Me Do It, and that doesn't even touch base on the Hispanic one that I can't say because it doesn't make sense in my brain. Yeah, that one.
All right, but did the devil make you wear Prada? That's the real question.
No.
I don't know. I think you could get away with doing a review of just the first one. You could do a targeted review. You're not going to make me watch 7 freaking horror movies. I only watched them for you, Stabby.
I made you watch the stuff. You think I can't get
really
the whole Conjuring
horror.
universe out of you?
The stuff wasn't really horror. It was just like marshmallows on crack.
You have to watch the first one, but then you have to watch the second one because then you don't understand the Crooked Man. And if we're going to hop on the Conjuring train, we need to have you all caught up before they release the Crooked Man next year.
So, Declan, have you watched The Conjuring? Are you a fan of horror movies?
Mostly not. Yeah. My problem with horror movies is, good God, for the most part, they're just, oh, look, vapid teenagers getting murdered. I don't care. I will admit I like the original John Carpenter Halloween because I appreciate a lot of the technique they managed to use, especially on, a shoestring budget. But not a lot of the horror genre just doesn't jump out at me. I like Silver Bullet, which was a lot of good acting by some very odd characters, even Gary Busey. I'm sure he was high out of his mind at the time. I don't want to imagine what he thought he saw when the werewolf makeup came out. And, of course, I do like Tim Curry chewing the scenery in the original It, because it's Tim Curry. How can you not like it when you're like, dude, is there any part of the scenery that doesn't have teeth marks on it that we can trace back to Tim Curry? But, I like very few horror movies. The Sixth Sense was, a nice one-trick pony, but after you see it, twice? Who cares? It's like, okay, you saw the twist. You saw how they manipulated you the second time. After that, it's like, you notice that Bruce Willis is sleepwalking a lot. Like, dude, are you awake? Hello? Is the brain damage already kicking in? But, But no, I'm not generally a fan of horror because, I have to write it myself.
What about you, James or Jesse? Weigh in.
I am very picky with horror movies. I don't like this tropes that appear often where everybody's kind of goofy or dumb, and like you said, a bunch of teenagers getting killed. I think the haunting movies can be interesting. My favorite horror movie ever, which is probably gonna make a lot of people cringe, was Dog Soldiers.
Ooh,
I loved Dog Soldiers. Spoon going to town on a werewolf with everything that he could grab. People doing things, the undying spirit. That's the kind of horror movie that captures me. It's when the scariest thing is when you do everything that you can and it's still not enough. And I think that is how horror tends to work into things like action stories as well. And that's, where I lie is always in the action. So
yeah. Actually, hell, you want the best use of the occult that I've seen? Have any of you watched something called Death Note?
Yes, yep, of course.
Yeah, that is possibly my favorite use of the occult because it's largely a Columbo episode. It's like, okay, you know who the criminal is. Now, how do you stop this psycho? And, Light is both an admirable character because he is smarter than almost everybody. But on the other hand, he's such an evil bastard. Like, dude, I've seen vampires that have more humanity than this guy.
Death Note was a lot of fun. I do enjoy that one. I think outside of Conjuring, if you're just going to touch base with the occult, it could be so much more because it does touch on that. And I do love the remakes of it as well. Don't get me wrong, Tim Curry is the king, but in the remakes, I do love that they do touch base on going further back than just the kids. They touch back all the way back to when he first arrived on the planet. And what they believed would keep him contained. So that's another one that was a lot of fun to play with. But if you like I said, if you go deeper than just the slashers, because I do love a good slasher, but if you go deeper than that and you do get into, you know, the witches and the hauntings and the possessions, you do get it gets really dark. And I think another fun one is the movies Ouija, because they really touch base on the fact that it's not the board. It's beyond, it's what's beyond the board. And you don't really catch it until the little girl picks up the and I just lost my train of thought. But she picks it up and she looks through the eye of it, and you see the watch your language, Marissa. You see the ghost coming at her through the little
The fun
lens.
ghosts.
And I was just like, I like that too much. I like that too much. And they show how they were using it to make money, and they had little rumbles stuck to the bottom of their table. And so when people would come for seances, how they'd fake it, but then how the real started messing with the actual family. So I think there's just so much more that can be dug into without the movie having to be terrifying and jump scares at left and right. I think the scariest part of that whole movie wasn't even the ghost. It was the fact that it, you know, had one of the main characters jump off the second story railing with Christmas lights around her throat.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was saying about forced possession. I like, she followed all the rules of the Ouija, and still somehow she wound up possessed. I absolutely adore when they do their research.
Yeah, there's the reason my horror usually has the recurring theme of do not mess with occult crap, and occult crap will not mess with you.
What are the rules of the Ouija? I didn't know there were any other than make the thing move so you can scare your friends.
No, there's rules. Rule number 1 is never play alone. Rule number 1 is never play alone. And that's the biggest rule that people break, especially in the movies. You see them playing by themselves, trying to talk to mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, wife, whoever passed. And that is rule number 1. And the very last rule of it is always say goodbye. And guess what they always forget to do?
Why do you say goodbye?
Say goodbye.
it
closes the connection.
You're signing off.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm skeptical. I don't believe any of it, so I just find it all fascinating.
Have you ever spilt salt and thrown it over your left shoulder?
No.
That's a part of it. Like all of those little things that people do. Don't step on cracks. Don't split poles. You know, throw the salt over your shoulder. All of those
things are adding up.
come from that.
Yeah. There is, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but a year or two back, California public schools were going to have prayers to an Aztec deity. You know, the sort of thing you sacrifice people to and, you know, eat their hearts out. And yeah, that was fun. One of the few people who agreed with me that this is bad, this is not a good idea, was actually a pagan who worships Loki. And her response was, yes, they feel that they can get away with this stuff because they don't believe there's anything that might, you know, respond. And both she and I at least believe in the supernatural, and you don't want to leave that kind of thing open-ended because you might not know what comes back to get you. Like, yes, you have put out this call. X has, you know, Cthulhu has replied. You know, check your inbox.
Just so you know, they still do that in California schools. That's why I pulled my son out.
Of course they have.
Yeah. That's their version of world history. When I found out, yeah, I was quick to.
So have you guys, anyone else actually written about like something like a Ouija board?
I've used a Dybbuk box. That was fun.
What's that?
Oh, don't mess with
So World War II Jewish mysticism. They were desperate, obviously, and so they summoned the angry spirits of elders. Essentially, that's kind of what it translates to, as protection. And well, it got out of hand, so they started trying to seal it off in this ornate Jewish wine box, and they did. And it basically haunts the crap out of anybody that possesses it, and they get possessed by it, and nothing bad really happens to them. It happens to everybody around them until it starts wanting them. It was a fun story to write.
Yeah. Actually, the closest I came to, an occult item that I personally did not make up, at least, hold on. Okay, I'm going to ignore the Spear of Destiny. I'm going to give the bad guys a weapon that's going to cause trouble. The only other occult item I wind up using were golems, plural, because at one point I just wanted to give my hero powered armor, and that was the best way to use it in a fantasy setting.
Okay.
I borrow the Necronomicon a lot. Again, I'm writing Necromancers a lot. I borrow the Necronomicon a lot. I also borrow a lot. I grew up going to powwow. My family in the distant past was Muskogee Creek. And so I borrow a lot from kind of native ritual as well. The power song, smudging the house, stuff like that. Ways to protect yourself in that regard. And I think that magic MacGuffins are always quite fun, but they tie into the person, at least for me, they tie into the person that is the exception to that rule. The put it back meme, the exception to that. The guy that is qualified to take this horrible thing and make it work, to know these terrible things. I like always playing with that character.
Okay. What about you, Nick? You gotta unmute.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
So have you used the occult in any of your comics?
I've worked on a few stories. They haven't been put out yet because I'm trying to find the right artist or in the right tone and all that. But I was using a lot of like occult from like ancient Egypt to power a superhero who's going to kind of be my Doctor Strange, Dr. Fate type character.
So would you consider the ancient pantheon of gods, be it the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, etc., would you consider that the occult, or is this a separate thing?
It can be part of it because, we've discussed what the meaning of occult is, what the definition is. And so, you start dealing with mysticism, magic, sorcery, things like that. That falls under the occult. And the ancient gods, I think, fall into that as well.
Wouldn't then you be able to argue that Christianity is an occult religion in that they have miracles, which is magic?
You could argue that.
You're going to make a lot of people mad. But you can argue it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm the world's worst Catholic. So we're not very good Catholics, but I will argue that, it's the occult, because we do believe in like certain things, miracles, objects, it's totally the occult. I don't care if they're mad. They could get a cape and be super mad about it.
I am Catholic. I don't care.
Same.
Okay.
Same. I'm not over here trying to, like if I'm offended, I'm like, oh, okay. Then I go on about my day. I'm not trying to start a jihad or anything or a crusade based on my faith. Of course, I've always wanted to be a crusader. I thought that'd have been cool as shit.
Deus Vult, was it Deus Vult? However you say that.
Deus Vult, yeah.
Deus Vult.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. I was gonna say I've used the occult, I think, in a short story that hasn't been published yet, but it's on submission with Three Ravens. I wrote that with James as vampires involved in it, and then I did a novella which I basically took like the concept of the ancient Aztecs because they were kind of like murdering a lot of people, and I put them into a space horror, and I've used that a couple times just because it's so like to our modern sensibilities, the idea that they're ripping out the still beating hearts and they're piling bodies upon bodies.
Don't forget wearing the skins.
Hard to forget that.
Kicking the
one.
heads.
Yeah.
And if you want the one in question, it's called Savage Skies, and it's a novella out an audiobook, ebook, or paperback. But that was me attempting to try and see what would happen if I put the Aztecs in space, and it ended up as a horror story, and it's probably the only horror story I will ever write.
Yeah. Hey, I was originally going to be using my St. Tommy series as an urban fantasy, and by the time I was done with the first corpse, it's like, I told my publisher, it's like, I may have written a horror story. It's like, don't worry about it.
Oops. Okay. So does anyone else have any other topics about the occult they want to cover? And if you, dear listener at home, dear viewer, have things you want us to talk about, we can do follow-on episodes, so just hit us up. We're game. But was there any parts of it that we didn't sort of talk about for the more broad aspect of it?
I just wanted to throw out that I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen History Channel where they do like ancient astronaut and things like that. But I think that Lovecraft captured the other and the outer, like from some far off universe, as the occult. And I think it's interesting that if you look at like relativity and things like that, that time actually changes when you get away from here. And so you could literally have, if someone ever did visit, even with good intentions, even if they helped build the pyramids or whatever, by the time they left and came back, they both themselves and us as a society could be totally and completely different by tens of thousands of years and end up becoming the occult.
Okay. Going deep for us tonight. Okay.
Sorry.
Jesse James, philosopher. What about you, James? Was there anything you thought we should cover that we haven't talked about yet before we start wrapping things up?
Well, I mean, occult's more in the like Western philosophies. You can always kind of tie in things like the Fae or other realm creatures or Eastern philosophies with their various mythos. A lot of the occult actually is handbooks on not just dealing with like spirits and things, but just kind of other beings. So, it's a very wide topic.
Okay. So as we start wrapping this up, Jesse, what are you writing right now?
I am currently working on my first full novel. It's called Serpent and the Minotaur. It is one of my mentioned necromancer heroes, though that I will refrain from giving further details to spoil anything. I also have a short story that deals heavily in the cult called Dead Wolf that will be out at some point through Three Ravens. And that is what I am working on at the moment, along with other projects that you, JR, are sponsoring. Then that's where I'm at.
Okay. Declan, what are you writing right now? Book like 300, right? You've got like
close. I just turned in Three Ravens, about 4 books for the sequel to my vampire series. So it's called Honeymoon from Hell, unless of course he decides, we'll just label it, books 5, 6, 7, and 8, in which case it's still Love at First Bite. Currently writing a military science fiction with, big stompy robots, working with Blaine Lee Pardo on that. And I have 3 other invitations to work in book series. I want to say one of them was actually, no, forgot that one. But I had invitations, so I've got a backlog of things to write to the point where it's like, I need to just make notes.
So is your giant stompy robot a Knights Templar?
Not yet, although I do have one labeled as Basar and the other named after a Christian werewolf. Do not ask me to pronounce the Gaelic.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the. I wrote this one with James Ward. We called it The Last Templar, and the idea was that this guy got turned as a vampire right when the last of the Crusader kingdoms fell. So, because the French had killed all of the Templars, they thought when the Pope dissolved the organization, he didn't free anyone that was part of the organization from their bonds. If you read the actual wording of what he said, because why would you? They're all dead. Well, what happens to the one who's now immortal because he's a vampire? So he becomes the Last Templar. Which would have been fun to explore if James was still with us. But yeah, it was fun just because, I was in De Malay as a kid, which is like the Masons for kids, which is, heavily influenced by Jacques De Malay is what it's called. De Malay is one of the Templars who was killed. So, I grew up hearing some of that stuff. So I thought it was kind of fascinating.
Mm.
I didn't go on to join. There's just too many weird rituals that I just didn't have any time for. I'm like, I got better things to do, girls, So.
Real talk.
Offline. All right, James, what are you writing right now? Felix Chance number 12?
Just third, off chance, finishing it up. Starting on the second Pandora Squad because I know once people get to the end of it, they're going to kill me and want the next one. Working on kind of prototyping a weird Western right now I've been playing with. And of course, there's always the inevitable dozen Felix spinoffs that are fighting for my attention right now. So, I got a lot going.
Is Felix Chance going to come out in audio at all?
Actually, it is. It is uploading to everywhere now. I'm just waiting for word that it is on Audible and Amazon. It's on Spotify and iTunes already. It's being slow.
I know Nick bought them on your interview about that series, and he's like, JR, you've got to buy these. I'm like, no, you're giving me too many. My wallet already hurts from all these books I buy.
Yeah, I've been waiting to send it to you because I know you got a lot on your backlog.
I realized I had to not buy any more coffee for last month because I realized I spent $300 on books. I'm like, oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
It's all Nick's fault too. He's like, hey, I bought this book from our guest. You have to buy it too. I'm like, no, not more.
Hey, JR, don't worry. I know a guy.
You know a guy. That's right. That should be a occult superpower from the Army. I know a guy.
I know a guy.
I guess I should. This is a bad time to note that my vampire books are going to audio, and they're being narrated by Moira Grayland.
Nice. I thought your main character was a dude.
No, I've got two main characters, and one is a Russian vampire.
Okay.
Female Russian vampire.
Generally, normally the narrator is the gender of the main character. So I thought Tommy was the main character.
I said the vampire books.
Isn't he in the vampire books too? Don't they cross over?
There is one crossover that hasn't even been published yet.
Okay. Then I must be remembering wrong. All right.
The St. Tommy books are on book. I think they're on book 7 is coming out in audio.
Nice. I confuse myself all the time. It happens. All right, Jesse, where can listeners find you on the wild interwebs? And as usual, all the links will be in the show notes below.
Best place to find me and get info is going to be on Instagram. It is simply my name, Jesse James Fain. That's where you'll get the fastest updates as far as anything that's coming out. You can also find me on Reddit at Outlaw Author. I tend to publish free stories roughly once a week. Something gets caught in my head and ends up listed on there, a cool writing prompt or something along those lines. And you can also find me on Facebook if you really want to. Again, just Jesse James Fain.
Outstanding. All right, Declan, you're all over the place, and as usual, you do have the link tree, which is very helpful. But where can listeners find you on the wild interwebs?
Well, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever they're calling it this week. Declan Finn Books. I'm on Substack. I'm on DeclanFinn.com. If you can make it work, I can't. Malware is a bitch. Facebook, obviously, because who isn't on it? I'm on Instagram for my sins. I'm generally on every social media platform that I can figure out. I tried to get onto something called BitChute. Still haven't figured out how that works. But no, you type in Declan Finn, you'll trip over me somewhere.
Yeah, it's a running competition to see who's more of a digital horror, Declan Finn or Hillbilly, William Joseph Roberts, because they're both on just about every platform that exists, and it's like a race to figure out which one is gonna find the new one first.
Oh God, I wish I could get off all of them.
The things we do for our job.
Amen.
All these people that studied creative writing in school thought all I have to do is sit and write.
Nope. Get a marketing degree.
Or marry somebody in marketing. That would also maybe be a
Even better.
All right. So, James, J.E. Pittman, where can they find you on the wild, wild interwebs?
On the Wild Wild Web, it's wildwildweb.halfacrepond.com, or on the Facebooks, it's J.E. Pittman Writes, and then pretty much everywhere else, it's j.e.pittman. So that's where you can find me. Or if you just Google J.E. Pittman, I think I'm still the first 13 results, hence J.E. Pittman and not James Pittman.
Outstanding. You can find us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters Blades Podcast. Wow, I messed that up, so I had to overcorrect a little bit, dear listener. That's where you can find all the things: the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the Twitters. We have our email, blastersbladepodcast@gmail.com, for professional purposes only. You can find us on our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page, or more importantly, you can find Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitter, email. If you want to talk about all things occult, if you want to send hate mail, if you want to talk about all things horrific, she is your gal. Hook her up, talk. She'll be your new best friend, and you can trade all the best ways to get blood out of carpets and stuff. I don't know, whatever you horror people do for fun. And then finally, you can find our new website from Spotify over there, because when they got bought out, their new links are gobbledygook. So just go to Linktree, find our podcast where you can support the podcast for as little as 99 cents a month. You can help keep the lights on, or you can support the show more directly over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until that coffee brand coffee code podcast grunts pours out of their eyeballs. You see what I did there, Nick? That's called product placement.
Product placement out of my eyeballs.
That's right, out of your eyeballs. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we're out. Thank you, Declan, Jesse James. Yeah, see what I did? Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. And with that, I hit the end.